Representative Davis.
First of all, I want to thank you for letting me sit in on your committee, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Musk. I chair the Economic and Small Business Committee, and with Cecil Bell, represents Cecil Bell Jr. down there. We went out to your site in McGregor about 3 weeks ago, where you have like 220 employees and very professional. I was just very impressed. It's where you test the engines. It's just an amazing operation seeing that take place. I guess what would be ideal is if we can have that take place where we can launch the commercial site there off Boca Chica Boulevard there in Brownsville, and ideally we don't like those 2,000 jobs being in California. We need you to manufacture those rockets over here. That would be a cool thing if that could take place.
That's a very important point, and I should have mentioned that, which is the current the Falcon 9 rocket is something that can be manufactured in California and road transported. In fact, I set the design diameter and dimensions of the rocket to be the maximum road transportable object without requiring lifting of power lines and that kind of thing. So it's roughly 13 feet in diameter and about 140 foot long for the first stage. And we'll keep doing the Falcon 9, I think, for forever in that size. But as we go to future rockets that are bigger than that, we would actually do the manufacturing at the launch site or near the launch site, because otherwise the road transportation logistics become prohibitive. Essentially, we either have to put it on a big ship or build it near the launch site. The logical thing is to build it near the launch site. So that is something that would occur wherever this launch site occurs.
And it needs to be at Boca Chica, so that would be great. We would love to see that happen. So, very good. Thank you again for what you do.
Thank you, John. Representative Perry.
Just real quickly, I detect you're not from West Texas.
Not originally, no.
I would ask it this way. You got 2,000 employees, I think you said.
Almost 3,000, actually.
But prospectively, we always are hearing about our math and science and how deficient it is in our education and stuff. But do you see that, with our commitment in your place, do you see helping our kiddos and our public ed and our employee workforce? Are most of you guys transplants from around the world, or do you find a workforce here, and are you engaged at the public education level and the college level in those processes?
Actually, our preferred route for recruiting is local. So we do a lot of recruiting at the University of Texas, and I'd say we have more representation from the University of Texas than any other university at our Texas launch site, and we work with local programs and whatnot.
So we graduate high-level scientists. There's an outlet through your place, and you recruit and encourage that and are active in that pursuit.
We are absolutely, yeah.
Thanks.
And if I can add, Ms. Renee Oliveira, I guess for the record, Representative Perry, our university, when we had the first meeting, I think about 700-800 people showed up, and there was not a single person against having SpaceX in South Texas. And 4 young people came up that were in the physics program at UT Brownsville. Unsolicited, nobody knew they were going to be there, and they talked about how exciting it was for them and that they could be applying their efforts in higher education in physics and be part of this. So there's no doubt in my mind the history of SpaceX is they've been very philanthropic. They have been very supportive of local schools and universities. They will rely heavily on all our universities all around the state, and we can be launching rockets again in Texas if we can do this.
Yeah, it's actually maybe worth and Karen, you may want to add a bit to that, but so this was a review, a public hearing that we held in the Brownsville area where essentially we invite, it's for an environmental view where you invite people normally to raise objections. I don't know if there were people that wanted to object, but they didn't get a chance to object because people kept coming up to the mic and voicing their support. And in fact, I don't think they've ever seen an environmental hearing like that before. Certainly I mean, do you want to elaborate on that?
That's correct.
State your name.
Karen Shunork, counsel, just counsel. I don't want to take over my boss's job as general counsel to SpaceX and Director of Legislative Affairs. So when we had the federal scoping meeting, so the environmental impact statement process that we're undertaking under the FAA, because they're the lead agency, part of that involvement involves a public hearing early in the process where they take input from the local community. They post notice of that hearing and give people the opportunity. SpaceX doesn't run the hearing; the FAA runs it, so as to make it an objective opportunity for people to present their concerns. Over 500 people, and as the Congressman stated, it seems to be a lot more to those of us who were there in attendance, attended the event, and over 70 people spoke up in favor of the project. No one actually spoke in opposition at the event. We had students, young students. We had a number of superintendents from the local schools. We had elected officials at all levels up to our state senators who sent letters of support for the project involved in that community support and statements of support. And what the FAA did say to us at that event was they had never seen a turnout of so many people with no opposition before in the history of their experience with an EIS public scoping hearing. They were incredibly impressed by the community support and by the wealth and breadth of folks that showed up to voice their support for the project and who they continue to hear from in support of the project. They actually told us that they had to make it clear to people that the public scoping area time was a specific time frame because they kept hearing from people asking, when are you going to tell us that this is happening? Because they had to give their information to the folks there, and they kept trying to contact them to tell them how much they want this project in Brownsville. So I have to say from my perspective, it has just been absolutely amazing to see the support that we've received from the local community.
Karen, before you leave, will you fill out a witness affirmation form that's on each side of these gentlemen? Representative Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a timeline or a decision point that we're looking at with respect to your choice of where you want to put this facility?
Yeah, we're hoping to make that decision this year.
And if I may ask, because I haven't been involved in the proposed legislation, does that legislation address the needs or the concerns that the company would have to allow you to make that decision?
I think it probably does, yeah.
Renee, again, for the record, Representative Bonin, yeah, we have tried to foresee everything because, our founding fathers say we only get to meet 140 days because a lot may happen after we're gone. And we have a pretty good working group. Time-wise, we're hoping that we get the draft study from the feds soon that says what the potential problems might be in terms of environmental concerns, U.S. Parks and Wildlife, Texas. But, a lot of this may happen while we're gone, so we're in a position of having to do things contingent upon us being the final place to go. And it is a strange deal because those other states will still be in sessions and they're coming up with their own competitive packages to, out there. So I know Chairman Pitts is concerned about this as well, and we've talked about a spaceport funding, and again, I think Mr. Musk would say, and I'll take the liberty of speaking on his behalf, that we're looking at more than SpaceX. Potentially, there are several other companies that are looking at Texas, and our coastline and our advantages are great. And there are problems in some of those other states that we don't have. And I'm doing everything I can to convince, particularly council here, how great it is to be in Texas. By the way, for the record, Mr. Musk, I think you were raised in South Africa?
I was born and raised in
South Africa, and he is now a proud resident of Los Angeles with five children. And He's done a lot. I could brag about him a long time, but I know you have a lot. His history is incredible in what he's done.
I just wanted to, is there a specific contingency appropriations request associated with the legislation or the writer?
I think we're trying to look at what other states are doing and see how competitive we can be. We've heard some numbers from the other states that are pretty impressive, and they're not just talking about money, they're talking about donating land. We at the local level are being very aggressive and trying to be part of the package in terms of assistance, and because it is a remote area of the county. It needs to be a remote area, obviously. So we're trying to work on getting power and water to this area that doesn't have it. But in terms of a specific number, I guess I'm not prepared to say, but we need to be competitive is how I'd leave it for now. I wish I could say X will do it, but...
I appreciate your comments, and I'm not trying to be abrupt, but perhaps with the surgeon's mentality, I tend to be very to the point. And
that's a good question.
What the action items are.
I just don't have, unfortunately, a number yet that I would even want to suggest right now. We're trying to see what the other states are doing, and we may not be able to match them. That's a risk. But the governor's committed to this, and there are discussions about what TxDOT can do and discussions about what the Enterprise Fund might do and other things so that we can be competitive and bring them here.
Thank you.
Representative Bell.
I just wanted to say, having toured the McGregor site, as Chairman Davis said earlier, I was very impressed. And if you're looking for remote, McGregor, by the way, fits the category. I like McGregor, but it certainly is remote. But to be able to be standing next to the Dragon spacecraft, it is great to know that there is a private sector desire to make certain that we maintain our presence as the leading entity in the world, and I think you guys do a great job of what you do. I, for one, want to see you expand in Texas. So, anyway, we appreciate you from here.
Can you just briefly tell us about the vehicle that you have created, the Tesla?
Oh, sure. Okay, Tesla, yeah, absolutely. We can probably help the Formula One guys out on the sustainability and green initiatives, as you mentioned. Tesla is I run two companies. It's a bit of a stretch, but Tesla makes electric cars and is now in production with a four-door sedan, which is a real high-performance sedan. It actually won Car of the Year, Motor Trend Car of the Year last year. It won Automobile Magazine Automobile of the Year. And it's so essentially saying it's the best car of any kind, not merely the best electric car, which I think was a key milestone for electric vehicles to be recognized, not just within an electric vehicle category, but across all vehicles. And we're in production of that, doing about 400 cars a week, going throughout the United States. Texas is actually one of our biggest, I think maybe the second or third in terms of states, in terms of the number of customers in Texas. And it is a bit of a challenge actually operating in Texas because our approach is to do direct sales rather than go through the traditional franchise system. So it does just present some challenges in Texas, and would love a slight modification of the law. Not here today to ask for that, but just mentioning. Just saying.
Thank you. I drove your car, and it's a very exciting experience.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Actually, I should mention, we're just opening the Tesla Gallery in Austin at the Domain. So if you want to go check it out, please do. Anyone who wants is invited to our test site at McGregor. Anytime you'd like, we'd be happy to host you. We also have these big barbecues once a year that maybe you want to go to. And then like one little bit of trivia, my grandfather was actually American, and he paid his way through college by doing rodeo tricks. I hope people might appreciate that.
Well, thank you for coming here today. It was a real honor for this committee to have you.
All right. Well, thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.